Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. Oh, everyone coming from all over the world, literally. And I wanted to welcome, let's open this up. Okay, here. Okay, perfect. So I want to welcome everyone to the webinar. Very happy to have everyone here, and special welcome to Shalhevet Engelson's network. Happy to meet you, to get to know you. You know, she does a lot of work around the Israeli community, so happy to meet everyone. And wanted to encourage everyone, if you have a pen and paper next to you, to have opportunity to write things down. A lot of valuable information to be able to share. And again, it's going to be recorded, so even if you don't get everything, don't feel bad. I can send the recording after the webinar. But again, taking notes is crucial for being able to retain the information. So I want to share the goals for this webinar is really to give a little take on how productivity can be optimized within our system. Again, there's a lot of things get thrown at us on a daily basis and a weekly basis. So I wanted to give some tips and tricks. That's something that I've personally worked through. I've had a lot of, again, we all have lots of things going on in our life, and I'm no different. So things that I've learned and I've developed personally, I've helped other people do as well. And I'm happy to come and share here on this forum. So I wanted to first start off with my client, Sarah. And again, names are changed for privacy. I generally don't share my clients with other people. So client Sarah is a classic situation where she has a lot of responsibilities in her life. She's an accountant. Her full-time job is an accountant for a business. Reason she came to me is because she had hundreds and hundreds of papers all over her house, all over her office, and something that she needed to, and she wanted to address for that. She, in addition to being an accountant in her personal life, she is a wife and a mom of two. And also she was taking care of a disabled sister and mother, and managing two other small businesses simultaneously. So again, we all have different circumstances. We all have different responsibilities in our life, but is definitely was someone who had a lot on her plate and really wanted to work on. So what do we work with my client? So with all those things coming at her at once, obviously there's a lot of things to handle at the same time. So she was definitely exhausted. She just reported that she was just always tired. There's so much to do. It's definitely exhausting. She was completely overwhelmed with all the aspects that in her life, both in her personal and professional life. Super stressed out. Just felt like she was getting cranky and really upset at a lot of times. And the biggest thing, she didn't know where to start. Like, she has lots of papers, lots of files. And again, this presents in different ways for different people. You don't know where to start because there are so many different things that you can work on, things that are important, things that are not important. It's not always so clear with what would start first. And constantly procrastinating because, again, when we don't have clarity on what we want to do first and what's more important, we tend to procrastinate and get involved in different distractions. I know personally, if I'm getting distracted, like I would go to, let's say, social media, or go to YouTube, or go to different games on my phone. There are a lot of things that we could find distracting. And if we're not intentional with setting time aside for those things, those are really distractions for us. So the real question is, why do we procrastinate? I mean, what is it about procrastination that, what is it about life that we tend to procrastinate from the things that we find most important? So the answer that I find is that we're overwhelmed. I mean, we all have things coming at us from all different directions. We have responsibilities from our family, responsibilities for our friends, we have responsibilities from the community, we have responsibilities for work, both from our bosses and from our assistants and from our coworkers. It gets very overwhelming, and it's very easy to just say, you know what, I'm going to deal with everything else another time, and I'm just going to procrastinate. I'll just deal with it sometime. I don't need to think about it now. I'd rather just browse social media. I'd rather just play a game. I'd rather just do some busy work that's not really productive, instead of doing what I actually need to do. So a question for you, if you can put it in the chat, I'd love to hear, just in this past week, right? Just in the last 7 days, how many new projects or tasks that came up for you just for this past week? Again, I know personally, probably about 10 to 15 came up for me. If you put in the chat how many came up for you, I'd love to see that. I'll give a few seconds for that. Okay, so Veronica, 10, definitely 10 to 15. Personal, yeah, both personal and business tasks. Just life. Life doesn't necessarily compartmentalize between things only come up with personal or things only come up professional. So yeah, 10, 15, 12, 15, things like that for sure. So, and just to get an idea of what's going on in our life and what's really overwhelming us, just take a look at around your house, wherever you are right now, if it's in your house, in your office, just taking a look. Is there anything that's not in the right place? Anything that's out on the counter? Anything that's in the wrong drawer? If you're in, let's say, your office and you're looking at your I don't know, the supplies that you have in your desk. Do you have enough pens? Do you have enough paper clips? Do you have enough folders? Is there anything broken in your drawers? Anything needs to be fixed? Again, in our houses, is there a doorknob that needs to be adjusted? Is there a light bulb that needs to be changed? Is anything needs to be updated or replaced, or anything that needs to be maintained? And again, if you would take a look all around every single part of your house or every single part of your office, and just to get a sense of what needs to be done, you'll come up with a list of hundreds and hundreds of projects or hundreds and hundreds of tasks that you can do and you need to do. So there's no wonder why we seem overwhelmed, is because life is super busy and there's so many things that come at us on a daily and weekly and monthly basis that it's normal to have that sense of overwhelm. It's normal to have that sense of too much to do and not knowing how to do it all. So the goal for this today is to understand, how do we deal with all these unfinished projects, right? All these different components that we are looking throughout our house are really all projects that need to be done and need to be addressed. So again, we're looking at, if we take a physical purview of things all around, then we see all the different items in our house and all the potential projects that we have. But even aside from that, what else is on our heads on a daily basis? What are things that we need for ourselves? Is there self-care we need to work on? Is there hygiene we need to work on? Is there personal goals and aspirations? Then we think of things for our spouse, anything we need to do both for our relationship with our spouse in terms of date nights, in terms of anniversaries and presents, or let's say my spouse needs me to do something for her or him. Those are things that are projects for us, things for our kids, things for school, things for camp, things for hobbies, different projects, things for our house we just discussed. If any, again, random things in our house, the dryer vent needs to be cleaned, or the AC vent needs to be replaced. All those house maintenance things that need to be done. Things for our car, oil changes, tire rotations, filling up on gas and deciding to get a new car. Things for our relatives and our friends. Do I need to get a birthday present? Do I need to get an engagement present? Do I need to help them out with this certain project that they're working on, or thing that they need, get them a ride? Things for our community, if our synagogue's having a fundraiser, if they're doing some sort of special event for everyone coming together, let's say a potluck dinner. All these are things that are on our heads. Things for our pets. Do we need to take them to the vet? Do we need to go for our shots? Do we need to go for get a new leash because the leash is tearing? Or do we need to get refill on the bags for waste? So all these things are on our heads on constantly, and our heads are not set up to store every single project that we have and be able to be able to know what to do, when to do it with just everything coming on at once. It's just not possible. We're just not set up that way. In the olden days, when they had less responsibilities, they didn't have technology, they didn't have social media, they didn't have all these other components and responsibilities. It was much easier, right? You didn't have all the different responsibilities that we have on a daily basis. But in today's day and age, with so many things, both personally and professionally, we're swamped with all the things that are coming at us all at once. So it's no wonder that we're exhausted daily. Like, it's very natural. Again, when we have a system in place, and that will address this, but by default, when we don't have a specific system set up, then we're going to be exhausted. So what's the solution to that, right? Is it just we're doomed that we're always going to be exhausted? Is it just like there's never going to be some sense of calm? No. We're going to have, if we have a successful system that we can rely on, that will help us in dealing with all these stresses and all the different expectations. So the first step, and again, I highly encourage everyone to write things down. For those that just joined us, welcome. And I would say to get a pen and paper or a digital tool to use to write things down. So the first thing that we need to do is really identify what's in our head. Identify the things around us. What do they represent? What do they mean? So the thoughts in our head, right? So I have a lot of thoughts in my head. And so writing them down or putting them in a list and really identifying, what is this, right? What does this mean? What does this represent? I'm thinking about birthday. What does birthday mean? Does it mean I need to get a present? Does that mean I need to make a party? The papers in our files, I have a bill from my credit card company. What does that mean? Does that mean something I need to review? Does that mean something I need to check over, make sure there was no fraud charges? Is that just, I already have everything on auto pay, so I don't need to look at it? The voicemails on our phone, is anyone that we need to call back? Is anyone that we need to follow up with? Emails in our inbox, what does each email mean, right? Just having the identifying component to just know what it is, right? Something we just see it in, like, okay, it's just a list of 1,000 emails, or just a stack of 100 papers, but without identifying what it represents, it's just clutter. It's just clogging our mental system. It's just holding us back from making any progress because we don't have that first step in just identifying what this thing means and what this thing represents. The notes in our folders, okay, we take lots of notes in different times, whether it's classes, whether it's courses, whether it's meetings, we take notes. But if we don't identify what those notes mean and what they represent, then we're not gonna be able to make any progress on that. So what kind of items could these things represent, right? So we're trying to identify what these things mean. So there's 4 categories that I would put over here. The 4 categories are projects, routines, goals, and tasks. If we take all the thoughts in our head, if we take all the papers in our files, if we take all the items from around the house, and we take everything and put it in one big pile, which I'm not saying that you need to do right now, but if you take everything and be able to just take a look, and especially with the thoughts in our head, and identify what these things represent, they would fit into one of these 4 categories. For example, we're going to go through the 4 categories, what they each mean, but anything that we have generally would fit into one of these categories. So let's go through one by one. What is a project? So David Allen, the author of Getting Things Done, his definition of a project, which is excellent, is projects are defined as outcomes that will require more than one action step to complete, and you can mark off as finished in the next 12 months, right? Because there are things that, again, if I need to go to the grocery store and get milk, right? That's not a project, right? I just need to do one thing. All I need to do is do an errand and pick up milk from the grocery store. So that wouldn't be a project. That would be a task. On the other hand, if I have a goal of scaling my business to over the next 15, 20 years, that's not a project that I can identify as has a specific end date and be able to mark off finished. There's a space for that also, that's a goal, but that wouldn't be constituting a project. A project is something that has more than one step, so it requires more planning, and also you can mark off as finished within the next defined amount of time. It could be a month, it could be 3 months, it could be a year. So what are examples of projects, right? What are the things that are multi-step? So let's say, for example, personal is creating an exercise routine, right? So we're gonna get into after what routines are, but to be able to establish a routine would take multiple steps, and it could be defined clearly and finished within 12 months. So at least have a routine. If I have a goal of being in my best physical shape, I'm not gonna be able to do that in 12 months, right? Because that's it's an ongoing lifelong journey. But to at least establish a current routine, that is something that it takes more than one step. It's gonna be able to, whether it's alarm triggers or whether it's buying new shoes or things like that, to be able to establish a routine, give myself a reward for doing it. These are all different steps that we can use. So taking these multiple steps and having it as in a defined time. It's like planning a vacation for the summer, right? There's a lot of steps that go involved in that. And that's something that I can do within a 12-month period. Developing a nonprofit organization, again, depending on how large of a nonprofit you're talking about, but it is something that can be done within 12 months. Learning new language, or at least the basics of a new language, enrolling kids in extracurricular activities. All these things are different things that are multi-step, right? There's not just a one-time task of send an email to someone, then the project doesn't finish like that, but they're multi-steps, but they have a defined end and they have a defined meaning, what it means. And work, for example, hiring a new assistant, developing more company morale will be a project that you can use. So what happens if it's a recurring project, right? I get asked this a lot of times. Let's say you have realtors that are dealing with multiple, each client has their own projects that are involved. People personally have, let's say I want to walk the dog every day. Does that mean I need to have as a project to be able to, okay, put my shoes on, I have to find the right park. So if it's a recurring project, then that would be category number 2. Category number 2 is a routine. A routine is where I'm doing the same thing over and over again, whether it's on a daily basis, whether it's on a weekly basis. But establishing a routine, that could be a project, right? Because if I decide I want to be able to do better hygiene, right? I want to make sure that my kids are brushing their teeth every day, twice a day. And they're not doing that right now. So it's not something that I can just, okay, it's a routine, I put it on a routines list and it'll get done, because it's not established yet. So establishing it could be, getting special prizes for the kids, having a conversation with the kids, finding the best toothbrush that they'll really enjoy, making sure that the toothpaste is something that the taste that they would prefer, giving them the choice, going to the store with them to buying it. So that would be a routine, and to be able to establish that routine would be a project in that. So those are the first 2 steps, really. First thing is a project, which is a defined start and finish within a 12-month with more than one step. And a routine is something that gets done on a frequent basis, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or even annually. That wouldn't be in the project category. Category 3 is goals. Goals are aspirations that can be accomplished with no specific end date and no end in sight. So for example, to increase revenue, you don't necessarily have a specific endpoint. You could just have, I want to increase. Do I care if it's 10x or 10.2x? Not necessarily. I just want to be able to increase my revenue significantly. Or for example, I want to be my optimal health. I want to be able to reach the maximum ability of myself to be as healthy as I can. There's no specific end date, right? I'm constantly working on being my healthiest self, but it's not something I can necessarily define as a project, because I'm not going to be done at the end of the year. My goal of being, let's say, the ideal weight and ideal body fat range and have the ideal physique, that's not something that I could define as a specific endpoint. So that'll be more of a goal. Within goals, we can establish projects. We can say, because I have this goal of being my healthiest self, I want to establish a routine of workout. I want to establish a routine of eating healthy. But having that idea that I want to be my healthiest self wouldn't be a project, because there's no defined end, but it would be a goal. And for example, here are some ideas of goals. This is a more business goals, to be able to increase the profit margin, increase efficiency. These are aspirations that we want to do, but we need to establish routines. We need to establish projects getting taken care of to be able to achieve these goals. Capturing a bigger market share, better customer service, improve employee training, reduce carbon emissions. These are all things that are goals that we have aspirations, but it's not a specific time and place for that. Okay, the fourth category is that if it's not a routine, it's not a project, and it's not a goal, but what do I do with everything else, right? Pay a bill, or pick up something from the store, or talk to my spouse about an upcoming trip, or order something on Amazon. These are one-time tasks, right? They don't require lots of planning, but really they're just one-time things. You know, I'm just gonna, we ran out of, again, we ran out of tissues. So next time I go to the store, I'll have it on an errand list to buy tissues. It's not a project, it's not a routine or goal, but it's something that I can do at one time. So these one-time tasks, what I found extremely helpful is if you put them on a list, but you divide them by context. So this is the context of where I can accomplish this task. And the context that I use are home, phone, computer, errand, work, and to discuss, right? So for example, if I have on my task list, I have just a one-time task, I need to replace the air conditioner filter. I need to do a monthly, I have a system set up that I have monthly filters come in from Amazon, and I just need to change it once a month. So if I put that on my task list with everything else, it'll end up getting swallowed up into a whole list of things that can be done all over in any time. But if I have them divided by a list to say, anytime I'm home, these are the things I need to get done when I'm home. So if I'm home, I'm sitting around and say, you know, what needs to get done in the house? And I look at my home list, I'm like, oh, I need to change the air filter. That I can do here. Then I'll get that done. But if I'm looking at that saying, if I'm looking at that task list when I'm at the store and I'm saying, you know what, I need to change the air filter, that doesn't register on my head because there's nothing I can do about that right now. There's nothing I can do about changing an air filter when I'm not home. If I'm at work, if I'm on the road, if I'm at the store, there's nothing I can do about that to assist with that. So because of that, I need to take that task and put it only in the context of where I'm next able to do it, which would be the home. If I have a phone, like any phone calls I need to make, whether it's personal, whether it's work related, having it on a phone list. And when I have time to make phone calls, let's say I'm in traffic or I'm on the road, or I want to take a walk outside because it's beautiful weather. And I know I have a few people I need to call. And you know what? I'll take a 30-minute peaceful stroll and be able to knock out 3-4 phone calls. Having a list of all the people I need to call would be extremely helpful for that. If I'm by the computer, is there a website I need to research? Is there an email I need to send? Is there a bill I need to pay that I can only use for my computer? Having that on a computer list, the next time you're at your computer, you can just take a look at that list and say, you know what? I have all these things. What can I do on my list of my computer tasks to be able to get it done? If I'm doing an errand, right? I'm going to, like, one thing that I commonly do is that when I go to Home Depot, right next in our area, Home Depot is in the same parking complex as Target. So, and also in the same complex as Target is Dollar Store. So often if I'm going to Home Depot or if I'm going to Target, or vice versa, if I'm looking, say I need to get this drill bit from Home Depot, but oh, I'm looking at my errand list, I also need to get laundry detergent from Target. So while I'm out, while I'm on the road, I'll be able to just get, one second. I'll be able to just get everything at once to be able to use that. Example of the things that, and I use this a lot also, to discuss is, let's say, for example, there's something on my mind I need to discuss with my wife. One thing that I was talking about just the other day is we want to build a vegetable garden in our yard for the kids to use. We want to be able to grow different plants and different, whether it's tomatoes or cucumbers, and the kids will enjoy it. It'll be a lot of fun. but I don't know where to plant this garden. Where would my wife want this garden planted in a way that it's, whether she wants it in the front, in the back, in the side. So I put that discussion, that topic of discussion on the to discuss pile. And then when I took a trip, when I was in the car with my wife, and I had a whole list of things that I wanted to ask her, we were able to knock out a bunch of things on that list because we had it organized by context of where I need to be or when I need to be to be able to take care and use this. Okay, so now let's get into the more of the projects, right? So we have the main thing, obviously there's one-time tasks that are great and need to get done. Let's say you need to pick up something from the store, you need to order something, you need to discuss something. But generally, when we're looking at our list, we have hundreds and hundreds of projects that we're looking at, right? We have things that are just on our head of all different types. And we only have the capacity, we don't have the capacity to do everything all at once. Like, we don't have that physical ability to say, you know what, I'm gonna basically make progress on every single project simultaneously. And I'll explain a little bit why. Part of it's because we only have certain time and space, but part of it's also not every project we have that ability or the desire to work on at this moment. So for example, we have current projects, we'll have things that I can work on this month and I can work on at the time being and different categories within that. But let's say I'm waiting for someone, right? Let's say I'm doing construction on my house. And so that's a big project. That's something that hopefully will be done within 12 months. And hopefully has a defined end. But if I have that project on my list, right, that's something I'm working on is my construction, but I'm waiting for my contractor to speak to the city about getting things approved. If that's on my list of projects that I'm currently working on, then I'm just gonna be spinning my wheels like, okay, I'm trying to do something, but there's nothing I can physically do about this project. So that's why we have other categories like waiting, where it's a project I'm in the middle of, I'm in the process of doing, but it's not in my hands right now. It's not something that I personally can control because I'm waiting for someone else. I'll need to make sure and keep on top of that and review that on a weekly basis, but I wouldn't necessarily clog my head in things of I need to be working on in something that's not in my control. So put that in the waiting pile. There's also the someday projects. Let's say I want to learn a new language at some point. I've always wanted to learn Spanish. My wife's family is Hispanic. I would love to learn Spanish. That would be a someday project because it's not a priority this month. January might not be the best time to work on learning Spanish. It might be in a couple of years from now. It might be that I'll never get to it. It could be that I'll do it in the summer when I have more free time, possibly. So that would be a someday project where it's not something that I'm working on prioritizing at the moment, but it's something that I don't want to lose track of. It's something that I think I want to do, and I possibly want to explore it further, but right now is not the right time. So I'd have that as a someday project. The projects that we need to really focus on are the current projects. So we generally have, within leaving out the waiting and someday, we generally have, even there, we have dozens and dozens of projects we want to work on currently, but we don't have the capacity to do that. So we'd actually have a third category, which I didn't include here, a fourth category of next in line. So a current project would be, for me, let's say, I would have anything that I personally want to work on, whether it's establishing a routine or whether it's developing a hobby or whether it's something that I want to do something for my own personal self-care. That would be a me project. A family project could be, let's say, installing a shelf in the laundry room or enrolling our kids in extracurricular activities or planning a family vacation. Things like that would be projects for the family. Beyond would be anything out of that scope. So let's say, for example, I'm doing something for the community or doing something for a friend. That would be a beyond category. These are really more for personal projects. When we're dealing with our personal project, we want to make sure that we're still making progress in our personal lives. When we're dealing in a professional level, we're dealing with our work projects. Oftentimes we don't necessarily have the luxury of only working on X amount of projects in a month because we have deadlines and things that need to get taken care of. So in that regard, again, you still have the waiting category, you still have the someday category, but you'd have all your projects in your current project list. Again, if any questions come up, please put them in the chat. I'd love to that. Oh, 1 second. Shall have it said. Oh, that was from before. At least 7 personal tasks from this month. Got it. Okay. So let's get into the next. So how many current projects do we work on in our personal lives? So the fact Yak was asking about the 4th category. The 4th category, which I neglected to put on the slide, is current projects, but they're next in line. Meaning I have the capacity, and we're going to get into this slide. I only have the capacity to work on a certain amount of projects at a time. So anything that doesn't fit into that category, I would put in like a next in line. Let's say I can't get to it this month, but I'll get to it next month or a following month. So it's important to me. I want to get it done, but I don't have the capacity to do it this month. Okay. So the next, how many current projects should we have? So I recommend, and this is based on the STEP program, Learn to Become. They recommend, and I follow the same protocols, 7 to 8 projects per month. That's the amount of capacity we have in our personal lives to be able to work on 7 to 8 projects, to work them, not just work on them, but to be able to complete them within a month span. That's the amount of projects. Again, some projects are larger than others, and we have to keep that in mind when we're establishing up to 7 to 8 per month. Why? Because it keeps things more manageable. I'll be able to, instead of making a little bit of progress on 25 different projects, I'll be able to take these 7 or 8 projects and be able to complete them. And to be able to make sure that we're not neglecting ourselves, because again, there are certain people that are more people pleasers and say, you know what, I'm just going to help everyone else, but then they don't focus on themselves. So we would advise to not have any more than 3 beyond projects, making sure that you and your family have current projects as well. And definitely make sure to have something that's for you within your month span. So when going back to our client, Sarah, so she was really taking on way too many projects. She didn't have that capacity to be able to handle everything all at once. Oh, sorry. Go back to 1 second. Yeah, so what we did as a result, when we were working together, Sarah and I, we were working on narrowing down her focus to match the capacity each month. For example, during holiday season in the end of December. So again, you can have 25 projects you want to work on, but in reality, the amount of time and energy we have to work on things that are not holiday oriented is very limited, because you're including, let's say, for example, for Christmas, including a holiday party and presents and all the different dynamics that go into that. So that's not within a capacity to be able to handle medical files and filing things accordingly. That can wait till another month. It doesn't mean that's not important, but we need to understand what our capacity is each month to be able to do things effectively. And for example, let's say, February is coming up, February, March coming up, and people want to work on their personal taxes. That'll be a great task for the month of February. But again, if that could be an overwhelming and overarching project. So if we have 10 other projects we're going to try to work on at the same time, it's not so practical for us. Sarah's asking, how do you get a project done if it depends on the spouse to work together? So that is a great question. And actually, I've discussed that with multiple clients, and it really depends on the circumstance. As a general rule, I would say that if that spouse is waiting and is on board with doing the project with you, then have a discussion with the spouse. When is a good time for them to do it? And again, coming to a consensus when the good time is. If the question is, how do I get my spouse on board to want to do it, then that would be a very different discussion with the spouse. So that's something we need to keep in mind is that, again, just like we're limited in our capacity, it could be our spouse is dealing with other stuff that they don't have the space and the time to handle it. And we need to find a mutual time that we both can work on the project simultaneously. But great question. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me just get back to, okay, so what do I do? So again, so let's say I categorize everything. Is question from Saul, is business more important than family? How to balance family and work? So that's a great question. Because again, there are some times when, depending on what our job is, where we have, it's a busy season professionally, and there are times when it's a busy season personally. Let's say, for example, there's a celebration in the family. If let's say there's a wedding in the family, if there is a challenging circumstance going on, whether it's an illness or whether it's a life-altering event within our family capacity, and then oftentimes we don't have the same ability to spend as much time on our work as we need to or want to, and vice versa. Sometimes, let's say, for example, you're at work and there's tons of things going on. It's busy season, whether it's end of year filing, whether it's a gala dinner you're trying to put together, whether it's end of year review, or there's an inspection coming up. All these different things are really, we need to keep in mind, of what our capacity is. So let's say, for example, if I know that physically, I mean, personally, right? If my family is going through, we have a family wedding in the month of March, I'm going to need to either ramp up my professional projects earlier or delay them till after March and maybe into April to be able to know that I have the capacity to work on all those at the same time. Again, when it comes to time boxing and be able to prioritize our time, that again, we can get into at a future time. How to explain your partner future and present goals. That's actually an exercise, a great point there also. That's an exercise in terms of goal setting and things like that. I try to do with my spouse as well. What goals would we like to do for the next year? What would we like to accomplish? Also, oftentimes good opportunities for that are during anniversaries or during end of year time, and really just going through, wow, it's amazing what we did in this past year. What would an amazing 2022 look like for you? Or what would an amazing 15th year of marriage look like to you? What we have accomplished until now and what we can continue to accomplish. So what do we do with our current projects, right? So we have 7 to 8 projects. We spread them out in different categories. You say, we realize, okay, I only have capacity to do these amount of projects, but what do I do? Where do I start? How do I get moving? So, and then we could also do a little Q&A if we have at the end. If you have a specific project you'd like to work on, feel free to put it in the chat and we can do a deep dive into that project. So if we have time at the end, we can do that. So just put it in the chat if there's a project you would like to work on, and we can go through the project development steps to be able to get clarity on that project. Okay, so there's really 5 steps to breaking down a project, right? We have a project, something that's more than one step. Again, just a review. A project is something that's multi-step. There's more than one step involved, and it has a defined end that can be done within a 12-month period. So what are the 5 steps? The first one is define the intention of the project. What do I need? What does this project mean to me, right? What is my goal with the project? Why am I doing this project? And sometimes, even though it seems so simple, like, of course, I'm doing this project because X, Y, or Z, sometimes just going through that exercise will just give us the space to be able to understand that, no, there is other aspects of this project I never thought about, because I just want to sit and realize, okay, this project is significant because of X, Y, or Z. Once we have that, we clarify what the project looks like completed. I mean, what is the end result that I'm trying to achieve with this project? Let's say, for example, I want to develop a routine, exercise routine. What does the project look like completed? It looks like that I am consistently taking 30-minute walks 5 times per week. That's something like that. The intention of the project is to be able to get healthy, to be able to get physically fit, to be able to have the energy and the stamina. And the project looks like completed would be, what is it defined as? So then we have to do is brainstorm all the possible aspects of the project. So what does that entail? Oh, sorry about that. Brainstorm all different aspects could be, is there anything I need to research? Is there anything I need to schedule? Is there anything I need to purchase? Is there anything I need to, anyone I need to involve in this project? Is there anyone I need to speak to? Email, anything that's involved in this project, and really just a random brainstorm of just like all the different parts of the project. Anything that's on your head about this project, just getting it all out on paper. And then we get to the next one is organizing these based on priority and sequence, right? Let's say, for example, again, we're working with the exercise routine, right? So I need to buy better shoes, right? That's one thing I need to do. I also need to speak to my spouse about when the best time to do it is. And I also need to, aside for that, I also need to, for exercise routine, I need to establish a route of where I want to walk to, right? So all these different, Yafa, thank you. That's, Pesach is a good time when it's a busy time. So what the sequence is, if I just decide, I'm just gonna walk outside my front door, that might not be the first step to establish the routine, because I wanna make sure that I'm set up for success. So what is the priority in terms of how I want to set up this exercise routine? Is it, but I first need to establish a route that I want to take? Do I need to research on Google Maps or any other way? Do I need to speak to a friend and what they do? And just organizing based on sequence. And then we can have a clear steps of action to be able to take to be able to get that done. And once we have that, then you can determine what the next action will be, right? The next action could be call a friend and ask them, because that they take walks at the same time, call a friend and ask them what route did they take and what route they recommend. Or you can research on the computer what's the best shoe company to get for walking or for strolling, things like that. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a sample project. You want to plan a birthday dinner, right? Your birthday is coming up. Let's say your birthday is in March. You want to plan a special birthday dinner, right? So that, again, if your birthday is all the way in December, if you have a late birthday, then having that as a project right now wouldn't be the right time. You would put that in a folder to think about it, let's say 2 months before, and think about it in October to plan a birthday dinner for them. But let's say your birthday's coming up. What do you do? So using this model, the 5 steps, so what is your intention? So again, different people celebrate birthdays differently. So keeping in mind, what is your intention? If your intention is, I want to have a chilled experience with a bunch of friends, then it's very different than a small intimate dinner with a spouse. So things like that. So you're just getting an intention of how you want to celebrate your birthday will help you with planning the dinner. The next thing would be to clarify it. What does a completed dinner look like? So that could be a fun eat out and activity combo night. Let's say I want to eat at a nice restaurant, like a chilled environment, and then do some sort of activity to end off the night. So what things would I brainstorm? So I brainstorm different restaurant options. I would have to brainstorm who I want to invite, which friends I want to include, what kind of activity I want to do, decide the date and time, because not necessarily on the birthday itself is the best time for a birthday dinner. So I want to brainstorm all these different things to be able to decide what's the best thing for us. And then once you have all those brainstorm, then you organize, because again, you need to organize and clarify what steps are, because you can't invite people unless you know when you're having the party, right? To just call a friend and say, you know what, I need to, let's celebrate my birthday. Oh, great. When and where? Haven't decided that yet. So it doesn't really follow the right sequence for that. So we need to make sure that we have the right sequence. First I need to decide what kind of restaurant, what my budget is, who I want to invite, what time of day, and then after that, you can take the next steps of inviting people for the party. And then you determine the next actions. It could be your next action is to speak to your spouse. Like, when's a good time for me to go out with my friends? Or the next step could be just researching different restaurants or different activities and that. So Yafa Myers, she wrote in the chat, Pesach. So Passover is the holiday coming up in about 2.5 months, not to scare anyone out there. We got 2.5 months till then. So the question is, even within that holiday, let's say, for example, there are different projects within the holiday. Let's say, for example, cleaning the house, right? If you're having company, or if you're not having company, cleaning the house. So that cleaning the house, and actually, let's take it through the, no, 1 second. Let's take it through the different steps. Okay, so the intention of the project, let's say cleaning the house. The intention of the project is to have all the rooms swept up without any garbage in it, and things clear to be able to have our guests and to be able to celebrate the holiday. Clarify what the project looks like completed. The project looks like, does it mean that every single room is taken care of? Does it mean there's be rooms that we're just gonna put aside and not have people stay there? Does it mean that I'm gonna vacuum under all the beds? Does that mean I'm going to organize all the closets and make room and space for everyone's clothing? So those things we need to clarify with the project within the cleaning, and also clarify how many people we're having. That could also be a good thing to clarify. Then the next step would be brainstorming all the possible aspects. So let's say I need to, what are things I need to brainstorm? I need to brainstorm, is my vacuum cleaner working? I need to make a list of sequence of priorities of which room. Is this room more important than that room? If I don't have time to do everything, do I need to hire cleaning help? Do I need to,
don't unmute it, okay?
Okay. So sorry about that. So within that, am I hiring a cleaning lady? Do I need to invest with new carpets and just replace the old carpets? So all those things that go into cleaning the house for Passover are, again, then we have to figure out what the priority is, then sequence. Is this room come first? Is this, again, if I don't know if my vacuum cleaner is working, then my sequence would need to start with make sure that your vacuum cleaner is working. If all my bedrooms have carpet, there's no way to clean the floors without a vacuum cleaner. That would be the priority, and that would be the sequence. And then the next thing, determining the next action would be, so what would be my next action for making sure that my house is clean? Would be to check my vacuum cleaner. Just check, see if it's working, right? Plug it in and turn on the power switch and see if it's working. And within the context that we're talking about, if I have that on my list of context next action lists, then that would go in my home category, right? I don't need to worry about the vacuum cleaner, whether it's working or not when I'm on the road, because I'm not going to buy a new vacuum cleaner unless my old vacuum cleaner is inefficient or it's not working well or it's broken. So that's something we need to keep in mind. So that's how you would break down a project as that example. Sarah's asking, how do I act on a task if being brainstormed on a project? So I'm not 100% sure what the question is. I guess what I'm understanding the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, is let's say I brainstorm the project and I have all these tasks, and how do I act on them? Then I would say, again, put them in the different contexts of where you can do them. Put it, whether it's home, whether it's to discuss with the spouse, whether it's an errand, whether it's on the computer, and then you'll have that list of different tasks you can do in those contexts, and be able to, when you have that ability, when you're at your house, when you're on the road, you're doing an errand, you're at your computer, you'll be able to act on those tasks accordingly. And if we did this, the birthday dinner, there's one exception. The one exception that I love, one of my favorite rules, is the 2-minute rule. Again, 2-minute rule has a lot of context. 2-minute rule is used oftentimes in different areas. The 2-minute rule when it comes to getting things done is if you have, let's say, a task, right? You have an email you need to write, a quick email you need to draft. You have a quick text to send to a friend. You have, you buy on Amazon for 1 click, you know exactly what you want to get, you know exactly what quantity you need, and it takes you less than 2 minutes. Instead of putting it on a next action list, instead of putting it on a to-do list, oftentimes it's easier just to do it, because the amount of time and energy it takes you to put it on a list, and then I'll get around to looking at my list at some point later in the day, and then it's easier just to get it done and be able to just do that task if it's less than 2 minutes. Okay, 1 second. Sarah's asking, I have a brainstorm on a project, not sure when to do it, right? So I guess the question is, so if I want to brainstorm a project not sure when to do the project, or not sure when to do the brainstorm, right? So the question is, when will you get, if you're not sure when to do the project, right? Let's say you have a project of cleaning the project, right? So let's say I have a project, I want to organize my bookshelves, right? I want to make sure that I have the right books in the right order. Let's say I have all my novels in one section and my self-help books in another section. I want to do that. I'm just not sure when to do it, right? If it's something that's pressing right now, then I would suggest to be able to just make that a current project. If it's not really pressing and it's something I want to do someday, so just not sure exactly when, so I would put on a someday project, on the someday project list, and then you go over that list and you review the someday list, right, going by priorities. So you go on that someday list and you review that list consistently, and see each time that you review it, let's say every week or every 2 weeks, every month, however often you want to review your someday list, you'll see if now it pops out to you as a project you want to take on. If someone wants to learn a new instrument, right now I'm not in the mood to learn a new instrument. Today's not the right day. This month's not the right month. There's too much going on. But if I review that list every few weeks, or review that list every month, and say all of a sudden in April, I saw some clip on some YouTube clip that showed this instrument, I'm like, you know what? I haven't seen this on my someday project list for a few months or for a few years. I think now is actually the right time to learn the instrument. And that's when we're not forgetting about those projects because we're still reviewing them consistently, but we're able to bring them to a place where I don't need to work on it right now, but it's something I do want to look at in the future. Okay, so going back to Sarah, so after we went through all the different projects she had, all the different things that she was working on, she now knows exactly which projects she needs to focus on, which ones can wait, right? She knows that there are certain things and certain times that are more pressurizing, they're more busy and full of different responsibilities. So when she knows that those are the right times for some projects, not for others, having that capacity to know, like, you know what, I have 100 projects on my list, but now is not the right time. Be able to calm yourself down, to be able to know that you're working on what you're able to work on. You're able handling all you can handle, and other things that are not a priority and not important don't need to get clogged. They don't need to clog your head and your mental space, knowing that you have projects that aren't done because you already went through that and say, you know what, this is not a current project. This is not a priority for me. And because of that, I'll know, again, making sure that you're choosing the right projects. And that's, we need to work on prioritization, but you'll know that what you're working on is what is important to you. What you're not working on is not as important, or it's not something that you necessarily ever want to work on. So that will just give you that calm sense. And that's what I wrote down over here, is by having our projects broken down into many tasks, and our tasks are organized by context, and knowing which projects we're working on, which ones we're not working on, we're less likely to procrastinate something small. All right, my classic example is if you need to buy a new bookshelf, right? And again, if I would ask you right now, if you need to buy a new bookshelf, can you buy it right now? Can you go order it on the computer? Not necessarily. Why? Because you need to measure the space. Okay, so are you able to go measure the space right now? No. I can't measure the space. I don't have a tape measure, or I don't know where it is. Okay, so what are you able to buy a tape measure or borrow from a friend? Yeah. Okay, so if you have on your list, your project list of, oh, buy a new bookshelf, right? That's a very overwhelming project, a very overwhelming thing to think about. Like, again, there's so many different things like a bookshelf, but if your next action is the next time that you are, next time you're by your phone, you just call a friend and ask them to borrow a tape measure, that's much less likely that you're going to procrastinate that, because you know exactly how easy it is and how simple it is. And it's just one quick action. It's very easy to procrastinate the project of buying a new bookshelf. But when it's broken down into little tasks, we are much less likely to procrastinate those tasks because we know how simple they're broken down into. Doesn't mean we're never going to procrastinate. It doesn't mean that we're going to not get overwhelmed by the different tasks we have, but it will definitely help ease the stress and the anxiety that goes into doing these projects that we want to do by knowing how simple and easy they could be. So I want to again, share if you have any Q&A, if you want to put anything in the chat. Been great audience participation till now. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Anything you want to go over, anything you want to clarify, please feel free. In the meantime, I'm just going to share a little bit in the next 2 minutes we have. Is again, this is what I help my clients with. We work on project breakdown, we work on project management. We also work on different things, time blocking, filing, sorting our files, helping our emails go to zero and our inbox is empty, learning how to prioritize, other ideas and strategies for avoiding procrastination, how to manage our office, how to delegate properly, to making sure our calendar is clear and visible so that we have time and space to do things, as well as accountability. I work with my clients to provide that accountability to be able to do that. Okay, Viva asked a question. Hi, Viva. What to do when there are many aspects to a major project? And due to outside circumstances, one aspect jets to the top. Coming up with a quick remedy causes a remedy, but creates another problem. Okay, so this is a great question. The question is really just in a nutshell, you have one major project, but there's lots of different parts to it. So what I would recommend is, again, because if you have one overarching problem, one overarching project, it could be overwhelming. Sometimes we need to break it down into smaller projects, sub-projects. Let's say, for example, I was talking about Passover with Yafa before. Preparing for the holiday is a very overwhelming, overarching project, but by breaking it down into different parts of it, let's say, for example, if you want to tackle clearing out a garage, right? It's a huge project, but if you break it down into a section, you break it down into items in the garage and say different projects are different parts of it, then it's easier to handle. And again, within each sub-project, then you'll break it down into what the next actions are for that. Okay, I want to share, this is what I do with my clients. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, especially those that came from Israel. And nice to meet everyone there. Thank you for participating. And as a special offer, because again, I enjoy sharing, I enjoy helping people, my clients. I do have an offer for anyone that would like to learn more about my coaching services. Anyone that participated in the webinar or saw the recording afterwards, offer a 10% off package for that. So I'm going to stop my share now and then just get to the question. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I am back. No.
Thank you, Avi, for your input. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Avi.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, Avi.
Yes. Any questions? That's what I see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very helpful and organized.
Oh, I appreciate that, Ethan. Thank you.
So, Avi, I have a question, actually.
Sure.
So I posted in the chat about, let's say, I have a degree that I got right from my yeshiva career.
Mm-hmm.
I just have not got the degree, so I need to like put all my records together, which I have somewhere. I have no idea where it is.
Okay.
And get that, but I've probably pushed this off for 3 years right now.
Okay.
So, like, how do I figure out my next steps in that?
Right. So I would say with that project, so I guess the question is, do you have clarity on all the different things that need to be organized and put together to get your degree?
I have it on one paper. I just need to find that paper. I sent it to a secretary. I don't know where it is now.
Okay. So within that, do you know approximately where it is that you could find it?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. So then your next step would be just to find the paper.
Right.
And again, taking it one step by step. And then after you find the paper, then reaching out to someone at the school and saying, you know what, am I still able to get the degree? Do I need to provide any other information or anything else I need to locate? Once you have a clarity on that, then you can, again, turn those into small steps. Find my record of attendance, find my record of this test score that I finished, and just bringing down to small steps will enable you to take one big project of getting a degree into more manageable steps.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, 1 second. Then Viva put in the chat. 1 second. Do one of the parts rises to the top, and there's no time to do the step outlined. So that's a great question, Aviva. So there are times, again, when we have a list of priorities, we have a list of projects, and life happens. Things come up, things get in the way, and sometimes we need to shift the priorities within that. So let's say, for example, I have in mind, I'm going to do these 6 projects in a month, and all of a sudden my car breaks down, then my priorities need to shift because I can't do half the projects with a broken car. So that will end up becoming from taking that from out of the blue and putting it into my current projects and working again through that as a project. What needs to be done? Do I need to call the towing company? Do I need to call a mechanic? Do I need to order a part on Amazon? Do I need to, and again, taking that situation and turning it into a project and doing a step-by-step, how do I handle that? Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Yafa, yes.
So Yafa, yes. Okay. So how do we get the recording of this class? Because I missed the first few minutes.
I will send it to you. Everyone that came here, I have I believe I have everyone's email address. Ellie, I don't know if I have your email. Everyone that signed up, I have email address. I will send it to everyone. That. And if you want the slides, just the special slides, you just let me know and I can send that as well.
Thank you. I will.
Sure. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. Again, any questions, feel free to email me. I think everyone here has my email address. Any specific questions I would love to help with. And oh, Veronica just put in the chat. Oh, one of Avi's clients attested focus and clarity. Yes, you've done amazing stuff, Veronica. Very, very proud of you. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. Have a great rest of your day. For those in Israel, have a great night. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Appreciate that. Okay, have a great night. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Sarah, I love your background. Love it.
Thank you. I did that. The stained glass.
Are you kidding?
No.
Wow, what a talent. Whoa.
Thank you.
I can introduce you to later.
Okay.
That's
Have a good one.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh.
I do that as a hobby.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful
Have a good
hobby.
day,
Oh my
everyone.
gosh.
Have a great day.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh. That's just gorgeous.
Bye-bye.